Kings, queens, and everyone in between, welcome back to Gears and Queers. I am Chris, and today I am driving something that is at once familiar and unfamiliar. So I'm in a 1995 Mercedes-Benz S420, and I've actually never driven a W140 generation S-Class Mercedes at all. You guys know that I have the ML, which is a 99, and I have the 94 E320 and the 88 300CE, and there's a lot of similar design language as well as even just like the general vibe in this car. This one being a 95 S420, this is a post facelift model. They came out, I believe, in 91, and that was very controversial because this was the car that Mercedes-Benz spent allegedly over $1 billion developing because they saw what Lexus was doing, becoming Lexus, and coming out with the LS400. That caused the Germans to quake in their boots a little bit, and there are many details all over this car, which isn't even the top of the line for the W140 chassis, that are pretty much just because the Germans realized they had competition in the form of the Japanese. So again, 95, this is the 4.2 liter, the M119 V8, and it's matched up to the older 4-speed vacuum-controlled automatic transmission. I believe that's a 722.3, not the 722.6 that you get, I think, maybe the next year, 96 or 97 forward in these cars, and then trickling down through the rest of the Mercedes-Benz lineup. This is 275 horsepower, 295 pound-feet of torque when brand new. This car has done just under 154,000 miles. The owner got this car at around 108K. It was initially leased in Miami, and then I think he said in about 98, this car came up to the Atlanta area and was sold at RBM Alpharetta post-lease, and he got it from that person. So I guess that makes him the third owner, and this thing is really nice. It's not perfect, but it's also a car from the 90s that is now nearly 30 years old. So we're going to cut her some slack, but it is a true delight to drive. These things have a reputation for being built like tanks. It's also pretty large. I don't think I've been up close in person with one of these cars. I've only seen pictures of them, and so I was kind of surprised at how big it was. Like, I knew this was supposed to be a flagship model. I know what an S-Class is sized like, but there's something about an older car being bigger, and I wouldn't say this car has the most aggressive styling, but it definitely has a stately appearance to it, and that stately is the word that I would use to describe the driving dynamics. It's very plush. This car does have the period correct AMG wheels on it, which I don't believe were factory, but were added at some point. And those are a little bit stiffer. Of course, they're on low profile tires, but this thing is just quiet. You've got the double pane laminated glass on at least the front windows. That's absolutely helping to silence things up in here. And then just some of the other crazy features that you got on this car. I think it's a 13 speaker Bose system, and I never knew that one of those speakers was behind the rearview mirror, which I'm sure you know is remotely powered. I will not be touching it in this car because the owner has asked me not to, and I think I would cry if I was the reason that I broke that very expensive rearview mirror. But the side mirrors, those fold and those work. That's pretty nuts. 1995, I'm not sure if the earlier cars had that, but like the early 90s, this was really Mercedes just trying to throw everything they could at this car and show, I guess, the luxury market that they were serious about being the best or nothing. There's all kinds of crazy little touches throughout. You've got an electric steering column. Of course, the seats are all electric. You've got these cute little mirrors in the back seat. This one has been fitted with a dealer installed phone. I'm not sure if that's exactly the one that would have came with brand new, but it was fitted at some point in the car's life, and it is integrated. Of course, this being an older Mercedes, you do have the flip-down headrest at the touch of a button. That never gets old. I love doing that in my 124 cars that I had, and it's a delight here as well. Of course, you've got a sunroof. Look at that thing. It's huge. It's amazing. It still works. A lot of people are very scared of sunroofs. I don't know why. This thing is still working perfectly fine. We do have a check engine light. I'm not sure what that's about. I'll ask the owner, but it seems to run fine. It cranks up fine. It sounds great. I'm told that the transmission is a little dodgy, so I was asked not to floor it, so I can't give you guys great V8 noises there, but we can get a little exhaust clip from outside of the car and scratch that edge elsewhere. So we seem to have come up upon some traffic, which seems like the perfect time for you guys to like, share, and subscribe. Let's get back to it. Now that we're back on the open road, one thing I do want to talk about a little bit more in depth is this audio system. I really don't know much about it. The owner told me that it's like a 13 speaker Bose system, and he had really high things to say about it being a factory audio system in the early 90s. And I was a little skeptical because I think it's no secret that I don't really like Bose products, even though the ML has a Bose audio system from the factory. So I hopped in this thing a little suspicious. I do like what's in the ML. This is a little bit older, but wow, maybe it's got to be partly because this car is really quiet inside and really well isolated, but I'm sure just the fact, like the size and the quantity of the speakers really helps. Just from the radio, because I didn't bring, apparently the tape deck works, I didn't bring any like chrome or metal tapes, which would have been amazing to listen to some like better source material in this car. But just from what I can hear on a decent radio signal, the highs are really well separated and the lows, nothing is rattling in the car, and they're pretty deep. The bass is pretty deep and just like tight. So this is a really impressive audio system. I'm sure it was even more impressive brand new. This one is, I'm assuming, all original. The radio, the head unit's original. And that's just pretty incredible. I think that's amazing. Something else on this car that is just fascinating is it has soft closed doors and a soft closed trunk with a little handle that deploys and retracts itself. That's amazing. This is such a breath of fresh air. Like, I guess depending on your perspective, it might not be. If you're used to something like a W123 or just any older Mercedes that are generally very high quality, but might not have as many power features, this thing just doubles down on it everywhere. And of course, I don't know if they have a ridiculous long German name, but those reverse parking rods, that's amazing. They're kind of helpful. You can't really see the corners of this thing from your driving position, so I think that probably does come in handy in some circumstances. Of course, we have a very similar key to the ML, that flip key, which I'm told is unobtainium, so that's pretty cool. This must have been one of the first cars that had that. Another thing that I find personally very satisfying and interesting is that when you move the seat with the power controls, the seatbelt height adjusts automatically. I've seen that on newer cars. This thing's from 1995. It's not even OBD2, I don't think. That's just nuts. It's weird to have these kinds of features in a vehicle this old, but hey, that's what S-Class was about. We're not going to go full throttle. Let's see if you guys can even hear this engine. I can barely hear that. That was like a 3,000 RPM shift. 3,000 RPM. So quiet. And I gotta say, even though this is the vacuum controlled transmission, which is just irritating to sort properly, and allegedly sort of dying, this thing is shifting really nicely. This is a pretty nice ride. So again, this is not even the top trim car, and it is just so nice in here, and things only got nicer as you go up to the S600. You start getting like stitching, leather covered door panels and stuff like that you don't have in this car. And I believe like a suede headliner as well. I do have a friend who also knows the owner of this car that has an S600 W140, and I would love to show you guys that car as well, maybe even a side-by-side. So if that's something you're interested in, please let me know in the comments. And until then, I think I'm gonna go return this car because I did borrow it just for a little bit, and I'd like to thank the owner so much for letting me drive your car and trusting me with it for an afternoon. So see y'all next time.